Hey Warriors, here's lesson 2 on social cognition, social psychology. We're talking here about social perception, which is the ways in which we interpret information about others and then form impressions about them. We do that using schemas. What's a schema? Well, we studied it back in learning and development and memory. If I ask you to think of a bird, your brain organizes birds in extreme categories. You don't even have to try to do it, but you probably picture that flying bird. Let's think of a pet. You think of all the four-legged creatures that you've seen in your life. Think of a farm animal. They're all out there thinking of animals. These folders in our brain are our schemas. Well, guess what? We do the same thing for people. We fill in blanks that are missing that we may not know about people, and we look at people and we see this is a boy, this is a girl, this is a person of color, and we don't have to think or evaluate too much. It just kind of comes to us in our folders, and everything that we know about those people, folders in our brain. Schemas will influence what we pay attention to and what we ignore. It influences what we remember about others. Some of the things about schema that you gather, it comes from the news, it comes from society. These are the things that I know about these people because I am not exposed to these people much, and it shapes our opinion of those people. It creates biases. They can have significant influence of our perceptions on people and other objects because they influence what we pay attention to and what we ignore. If it's consistent with our schema, we're going to pay more attention to that than if it were not. We tend to process information about the other people more quickly if it confirms our beliefs about those people, about that gender, about that ethnic group, or if it violates. We will not think of that. Schemas influence what we remember. Let me tell you, in one study, people watched a video about a woman. If the people thought the woman that they saw in the videotape was a waitress, they pictured her, they remembered her carrying a beer and a plate. If they thought she was a librarian, they pictured her wearing glasses and listening to classical music. In fact, the woman did all of these things, but we didn't think that because it would have been weird and it wouldn't have been a part of our schema. But remember that first time when you saw a teacher out at a store or somewhere where it didn't fit the context? Your teacher didn't belong in that schema. So it's kind of weird. Oh, teachers need food too. They're at the grocery store. Doesn't fit our schema. We may not remember it. Well, we will because it's influential. It's not something we're expecting. Just like your brain can fill in the missing letters of that paragraph or can put together the dots in the phi phenomenon, in the Gestalt theories, your brain does the same thing for people, and it influences the way that we see them. Now, schemas fit with first impressions. First impressions are shaped by our schemas, and they're often based on looks, and we'll interpret information based on what we see. If you show up to a job interview looking like this guy, well, then that first impression may be that you're intelligent, that you're a hard worker, and we will interpret future information and behavior based on what we see the first time we meet you. First impressions are, believe it or not, difficult to change. And so let me tell you, if you're going to show up at a job interview, wear this, unless you're a female and you're not comfortable wearing that. Gender roles be darned when it comes to what you wear to a job interview. Just look nice, because when you leave that room, you want them to be talking about you. That is first impressions based on schemas. Listen to this story. In 1968, an experiment in lower class San Francisco elementary school, teachers gave an IQ test. Teachers were told that the tests had identified students that were going to be late bloomers. Their IQ would experience a spurt, a growth later on. The experiment entered a random selection of 20% of the pupils who were identified as these late bloomers by the teachers. And in reality, they were really no different from any other students. But guess what happened? After 1 year, those students showed significantly higher IQ scores based on comparison with others. Why? Well, because of self-efficacy. Somebody showed that they believed in those kids and they believed in themselves, and that influenced their behavior. This can also work in reverse. Let me show you. Knowing that somebody believes in you produces self-efficacy, and then you further believe in yourself because you got somebody on your side. Well, it can work in the reverse if you have a self-fulfilling prophecy. If an initial impression by someone elicits behavior in another that confirms the impression. So you're going to be a great student. I believe in you. That's going to make you work harder and prove through your behavior that you're the great student. If the belief is you're a member of an ethnicity or a gender or some other category that makes you lesser, that can also become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If the idea of the populace, of the whole, is that this group of folks don't perform as well as this group of folks, it may become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that influences your social perception, your social identity, your self-esteem, all the things, the self-concept. I will show you more about this in class, and it goes with this picture that is at the bottom of this slide. More on that in class. All right, before we switch the subject, remember that schemas shape the way we think about people, and they help to form our first impressions, which are usually long-lasting, and go further to influence our self-efficacy and self-fulfilling prophecies. Here, we're going to explain behavior based on attribution. Now, attribution theory is the way that we, well, like I just said, it's the way that we explain behavior, the causes of behavior. People explain behavior of others differently than we explain our own because we don't want to take the blame. We use defense mechanisms to explain away bad behavior, but we don't do it with other people. We don't give other people the benefit of context. For instance, Mike didn't return the money to me because he's lazy. That's something about Mike himself. So this affects other people's feelings, expectations, and reactions and impressions. Betty thinks that Bert needs to stop playing video games. That's all you do. I'm sick of it. She's upset with Bert because all he's doing is playing video games. Well, to explain her behavior, Bert might say, wow, she must have had a bad day, or I'll be extra nice to her today. That changes his behavior because the attribution explaining the behavior says Betty's in a bad mood. Attribution theory matters because it has two different pieces and parts. Number one is dispositional or internal attributions. The dispositional or internal attribution is Mike. Mike is lazy. He didn't have the money and didn't pay me back. That is something about Mike. It is his disposition and internal attribute. Something about the person is the cause, such as an attitude, a preference, or a personal trait. The personal trait for Mike is he's lazy. A situation or external attribute is the situation is what caused it. No, Mike's not lazy. He just didn't go to work because he was sick and he can't pay me back just yet. You do this with the teacher didn't explain it. They didn't teach it. We didn't know what we were doing. A situational cause for Mike's reason he didn't pay me back. He had to work late. He didn't come to deliver the money because he had to work late. I'll get it later. We do this in traffic all the time. Think of somebody that's tailgating you on 521 and you think, oh my gosh, what a jerk. They're tailgating me. They must be a jerk. Dispositional. And we don't know the situation. The situation is they have their pregnant wife in the passenger seat and they're trying to get to the hospital. That's the situation. Another thing we do to explain behavior is called actor-observer bias. Actor-observer bias is when people often attribute other people's behavior to internal causes, and they tend to attribute their own behavior to external causes. The actor in this situation, the actor evaluates his own behavior and says, I guess I didn't study the right material. And the observer might be thinking, he just can't do this work. He's not cut out for this class. Actor and observer. The actor is soft on himself and more harsh against other people. We explain other people's behavior using fundamental attribution error. That is the tendency to overestimate the effect of dispositional causes. So once again, the waiter is too slow. They don't know what they're doing. Otherwise, I'd have my food. Fundamental attribution. They're not lazy. They're not incompetent. We're not considering the situation. Maybe they're slammed. Maybe it's the first day. A fundamental attribution might be, hey, everybody's traffic is behind this guy. Why are they taking so long? They don't care that they're holding everybody else up. The fact of the matter is that driver is not paying attention to anybody else. So it doesn't really matter. There's no reason to get stressed out about it. That's what I'm saying. One last one, and that is self-serving bias. Because of our delicate egos, according to Freud, we are more likely to attribute behavior of our successes on dispositions, like I'm a great student. Woo, I did great. Or I'm going to explain bad behavior because it was not fair. I wasn't given enough time for the test. That is a situation. The self-serving bias causes me to look at myself as the winner. How could I be a victim? I am the victim. Self-serving bias allows the individual to place the blame for their failures on circumstances outside their control. At the same time, however, it allows us to take credit for successes. So when I do great, it's because I'm smart. When I don't do great, it's because the test was unfair. Self-serving bias protects our self-esteem. We would feel bad about ourselves if we couldn't pass a test. And so all of these factors play into the way that we feel about ourselves. And so to conclude this lesson, we've talked about a lot, I've talked about a lot, that is first impression schemas shape the way we feel about other people. We tend to remember the things that fit into our schemas. We have self-fulfilling prophecies, which can be good, can be bad. And we have attribution theories that allow us to be easy on ourselves while judging other people unfairly through their disposition and rarely considering situations. All right, that's it for now.